Hi, I'm Kathy Callahan Brady, and welcome to In the Trenches. Today, I have the honor and pleasure of introducing and having a conversation with one of my favorite people. This is Larry Marsh. You're actually the owner of the building that is our first biotech center for FITCI. Great, phenomenal location. A lot of people don't know that beautiful stream you actually created,
Yes.
that gorgeous patio that we have out there that we get to enjoy so much. So thank you for doing that.
Well, I did it quite a while ago, and I'm really pleased to have FITCI there with all of the bright young people that are trying to start their businesses.
Well, you have been so instrumental in helping them. I mean, just being on our strategic growth and advisory board, and part of that is because, I mean, we were just talking a few minutes ago with all of the patents, you know so much about that, and every single one of them has to have patents, so you can really give them the true story behind it, not just academic sort of
yes.
experience.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things I hope that they use me for as a resource there as part of the advisory group, because it's really something that most people don't have a lot of experience in, unless you're a patent lawyer, and their experience is different than the inventor.
It's a little personal when it's the inventor, right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, it's part of you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you've got several patents,
Yeah,
17,
over 20,
20.
I guess. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and we were talking about that a little bit. Have you ever had to defend one of these patents? Has anyone ever tried to steal one of your?
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
I probably have spent over $1 million in the last 25 years defending patents,
Wow.
because really, if what you're trying to get a patent on, your invention, is not valuable, then you probably shouldn't be getting it in the first place. And so don't just get a weak patent. You've got to have a strong patent, and if you get that, be prepared, because you're making money off of it. Somebody's going to come in and try to eat your lunch, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so I unfortunately put a company in California out of business after about a 2-year long patent.
Oh, really?
Yeah, actually ended up in the Supreme Court. So I got a law degree without going to college.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I imagine that was very difficult,
It
though.
was. But, you know, all of the people at FITCI who are starting companies are almost all intellectual property based.
Yep.
And that's something that they have to get a handle on. And it's not cheap.
Yes, that's correct.
And so that's a major startup expense that a lot of other companies who don't deal with intellectual property have.
Yeah, and many of them are trying to do it in a bootstrapped way and file provisionals and all that kind of stuff, and try and find a friend who can help them do it, and there's all sorts of different ways of trying to do it on the cheap.
Right, and in general, I think if you do it on the cheap, it'll cost you more money than you can imagine, because the patent is not what ends up as part of the product. It's what you invent and have coverage by the patent, but the marketing, all of the effort and the enthusiasm that you put into that product, if you can't have it covered with a patent, then somebody else is going to come in and market it better than you.
So did you have all these patents under one company? They were all part of one company, or is this over many years in different companies?
Yeah, let me go back a few years. I started my company in Montgomery County, and it was a startup with 3 people. We had a limited money. We had no source of capital other than family money, and I was about 30 at the time. And we got a patent early off on an oceanographic instrument. Most of the products that I've created are water measurement instruments and primarily flow. And so we had a couple of patents there. We grew. We went from Kensington to Rockville, to Gaithersburg over a number of years. And all of those facilities were rental facilities. And then we got big enough, we had 100 people at this time in Gaithersburg.
Wow.
And so we decided to move and get our own building. And so I moved to Frederick. We had a lot of employees from Frederick. And so when we moved, we probably did not lose more than 4 or 5 out of 100 people.
Wow.
And so that building that we built back in 1990 is the same building that Fitzy occupies. And it's turned out to be a nice campus, I think, for that.
It's been
endeavor.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we really enjoy it.
But I guess in answer to your question about the patents,
Right.
we went from oceanographic work, then it looked like that wasn't going to fly, just the industry was floundering, shifted over to environmental instruments and then into industrial instruments. And so as we changed fields, every place we went was underserved. And so it was easy pickings from my mind on inventing things that would make me money.
Well, you're,
And,
you're an inventor, that's
I'm,
for sure.
I'm an inventor.
Yeah.
I grew up in a small town, Paintsville, Kentucky, in eastern Kentucky, and I was a tinkerer, inventor. My grandfather helped me a lot on things, and then I went to Georgia Tech and became an engineer, electrical engineer. Got a job at the Applied Physics Lab at Johns Hopkins out in Columbia. Wonderful place to start off. Tried to start a company on moonlighting while I was out at Johns Hopkins because I was a design engineer, but that didn't satisfy me, and so that I knew I needed to do something, and so we started a company called Electronic Labs, and built some really interesting things that don't have time to go into today, but we found out after 2 or 3 years that you really cannot start a viable company without spending 100% of your time on it. Moonlighting doesn't usually do it because you're still dependent upon the paycheck from the other place, and so you have to immerse yourself in it, and that's what happened when I started the company. Marsh McBurney, and that's the company that started in Kensington and moved up to Frederick. So it's been a good ride, lots of fun. You got to have fun. If you don't have fun, it's not worth it. And people have a tendency to say that's too risky, and to me or to the other entrepreneurs, it's not a high risk because you're convinced you know what you're doing and you're convinced that it's going to work. Now, the fact of the matter is it may not,
Right.
but and you have to have your spouse intimately involved because you're going to spend 60, 80 hours a week. And I was fortunate that my wife, Mary, supported me the whole way. And we have 4 kids. When I started the company in Kensington, she was a secretary for me. And then she got pregnant, and we had no health insurance because we're trying to save money. And so I had to pay the doctor in the hospital over 3 years for my 4th child. And so you've got to deal with it. But it's got to be fun. If it's not fun, it's too much work for it not being fun.
Well, I love how you understand what the entrepreneurs are actually going through, because the whole idea without insurance and just trying to make ends meet, until you get to that finally payday, and then everything's fine, right? Yeah.
Oh, well, no,
Yeah.
what's interesting was we started off with a total of $15,000. And, I don't know what that is in today's money, but still not a lot. And we had enough money to last 6 months.
Okay.
And our first order came in about 5 months after starting. And fortunately, one thing that I had done was that I had put an advertisement they called it free product releases in a technical magazine. And I did that the day that we started the business, did a fake picture of the product and got that going and got people interested in the product while I'm sitting over there buying parts to figure out how to do it.
Actually built
Yeah,
it.
and frankly, if I had not done that, we would have run out of time.
Yeah.
And so you do have to sort of break a few rules.
Right.
When somebody calls up and says, how's that product? Have you tested it? Oh, yes. And I'm still sitting there building it. But
Right.
so you have to
Do whatever it takes.
do whatever
to
it
get
takes
to the finish line.
within
reason.
Yes,
of course.
right.
Of course. Yeah.
Other interesting thing about startups, and since most of the people in FTSE are startups, you can talk about, what I did when I sold the company to a Fortune 500 company and what all we did, but that's not what they're doing right now.
Right.
What they want to hear is, how do I pay the lawyers? How do I pay the accountants? And my advice is, don't pay them in stock. You've only got 100% of the company, and if you give away 5% of it, 10%, it's gone forever. Figure out a way to pay them with money, but don't give away your company to get advice, and that's what FTSE provides. They can come to the meetings, they can get legal advice, they can get all sorts of advice that they don't have to pay for.
Exactly.
And that's invaluable.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for everything that you do. If you'd like to leave them with something that would inspire them, or you'd tell them not to do or what to do, anything that, just sort of a piece of advice that you might want to leave them with.
Well, a famous quote that I remember from a good friend is that the company is a figment of your imagination. If you stop thinking about it, it'll go away. And that's when you go home at night, for better or for worse, you better be thinking about it.
Yes.
And when you go to sleep or can't go to sleep, you better be thinking about it. So to me, that's the biggest one. And I just think overall that being in that environment out at FTSE, being with all what I call young people. At my age, everybody's a young person. But being in that environment and seeing the excitement that they have, and probably not asking as many questions as they should, that it's fun to be around all that. I'm an inventor, and these people are innovators in things that I don't know much about, but it's all the same game in some sense.
It absolutely is. And we love having you there. So you need to stay forever.
Well, I hope I can. I don't
And
know what forever means.
And we have a new tech shop coming up. So all that stuff you did in Kentucky, need to be doing it here.
Yep. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's exactly right. And that's just underway down there now in Kentucky as a nonprofit. Finally got that. And I think I can learn a lot and maybe help a lot with what you have here starting up downtown.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you again for everything that you do for FTSE. I know all of the clients absolutely love you, and I see them running up and down the stairs all the time talking with you. So thank you so much for that.
It's
invaluable.
my pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys again for watching. This is In the Trenches, and you can hear more in terms of our interviews of all of our advisors and some of the amazing people that support and help FTSE. And you can find that on FTSE.org.